Today on the Authors Exchange, we sit down with author Odna Chukkas, author of Winter's Son.
You don't actually have to be going through anything. You just need like a source of encouragement or pick me up, like a cup of coffee.
Puts your mind in the right spot where it should be. And
Yes,
that's, I think, one of the values of reading even one of these poems. So well, let's hopefully reach 1 million viewers with yours and put everybody's mind in a perfect spot.
What a beautiful world is gonna be, right?
The Authors Exchange. Your host, Captain Christopher German. Brought to you by The Charted Life. And sponsored by Whither We Tend, a novel by Captain Christopher German. Welcome to The Authors Exchange. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us for The Authors Exchange, the best half-hour conversation you're going to find on the web. And today we have a very lovely and very talented author from Nigeria, and she is going to be telling us about her book. But before we get to that, let me tell you a little bit about her. Her name is Odna Chukkas, and I had to say that right. I said it right, I hope I said it right. Well, she's a Nigerian poet who lived in the United States for 7 years and eventually ended up relocating back home. While living in the U.S., she studied fashion accessory design at Miami Art Institute and then went on to become a self-taught hairstylist in Atlanta. She's an attorney, a handbag, textile, print, and footwear designer. She enjoys working with her hands to create a healing plant remedies and beautiful arts and crafts. And Winter's Son, which is her book, is writing was such a blessed book, was never in her vision, but she feels honored that it was part of God's plan. She hopes to write more inspiring books soon, and she currently resides with her family in Asaba, Delta State, Nigeria. How'd I do with all those? Did I say everything right?
Awesome. You did a fantastic job.
Outstanding. Well, Adna, before we go too much further, tell us about your book.
My book, Winter's Son, is basically, I wrote the book as a coping mechanism during a time when I experienced anxiety for the first time. I was like in the dark space, like I was just having a lot of regrets and I felt so alone. I felt like, all my regrets were crashing down on me. And then while I was at it, I just felt like I started to have heart palpitations. I just started to feel so bad. Like there was nothing positive that could bring me out of it. I started to speak with my family and they're like, oh, Google and all of that. But then at some point, God just came and just like, not like I heard the voice of the Lord, but I felt in my spirit that I should read the Psalms. And so each day I began to read the Psalms and I started to get better and better. And one day, suddenly in the middle of the night, I was sleeping and it was like 2 a.m. And next thing I woke up and next thing words started to flow. And so I started to write the poems, like the words on my phone. And every time I wrote a poem, I felt so comforted and loved and all of that. And it's just amazing. Like those poems were like, I was in a dark place, but then the words that were coming out were words of positivity, basically. So those collection of poems, I never thought in my wildest dreams that I was going to publish them. I just thought like, because you know how when you're journaling, so it just felt like I was journaling, for my personal purposes, but I didn't ever think like I was ever going to put it out because they were vulnerable. Like some of the poems are so vulnerable. They're like, so, sorry for a moment. So, vulnerable words, and then next thing, like months later, I forgot about the poems, and next thing God just is like, you need to publish those poems. I'm like, what poems should I publish? Like those poems, the ones that you wrote. I'm like, what? I'm not going to publish those are so embarrassing. Who would want to read those words? So finally it took me like 6 months basically to finally be like, I'm going to do this. I'm just going to just jump in the water. I don't care what anyone thinks. When anyone thinks I'm like a crazy, anxious person, because most times in life, we don't want to let people see us that way, so vulnerable and so raw and just like unsure of, what the next step is. Everyone always wants to feel like they have everything under control, so it was like my words were like kind of lost. I felt like my words were lost, and they actually had a lot of meaning. And after that, I just put a stamp on it, put a date. I was like, I'm gonna do this so and so time. I just put a target, and I was like, this is when I'm gonna publish my book. So I just went with it, and this is where we are today.
Well, and I'm glad you did that, because quite frankly, I think you illustrate a really important aspect, I think, of poetry with this book. A lot of there's a ton of poetry books out there, and especially after the pandemic, a lot of people sat down to write poems, and they're all. I think everybody that puts a pen to paper puts something beautiful down. I'm a huge supporter of everybody that publishes and that's why I do this podcast, is because I want to share the beauty of people's works. But yours has a particular spirituality to it. It has a particular religiosity to it. If I can make my own words up all the time, I'm going to do it again. But I like the fact that you use religion and God through your poetry to not only to salve your wounds, but I think these poems being shared can salve other people's wounds, particularly in a time in our country or in our world where, we just hit the 3 million mark a couple of weeks ago with COVID. So, this is a time when we really do need to touch base with God, and we can do that with your poems. So thank you for sharing them with us.
Thank you for reading them. I really appreciate it.
Well, and that's the thing is that it's not necessarily a poem. You don't have to read every single page of the book when you sit down to do it. Each poem, I think, has its unique messages. It has its unique what's the word I'm looking for? Well, the messages is unique in every poem. And so depending on your mood, depending on what's happening in your life, depending on, because this was a whole it was a journey for you with these poems as you were coming back from your, and that shows in each and every poem with each subject matter that's taken up. I wonder, would you be willing to read us one of the poems?
Yes, it will be my honor to read one of the poems. And before I read one of the poems, I just want to add in and say that these poems are like, when I talk, usually if I write anything down, people say like I have like a layman's, I just appear like I'm not using like big words or fancy words. I just speak and I connect with people. So that's what like my poems are. They're like easy to understand, but then you don't actually have to be going through anything. You just need like a source of encouragement or pick me up, like a cup of coffee for your day or something, or you're trying to make a decision, or you just want to get some clarity, or just want to clear your mind. Those are what the poems. I still read them. I actually read them every day. Like sometimes I just want to be like, oh, I just want to be woken up and feel alive. And, I read the poems. So I'm going to read.
It puts your mind in the right spot where it should be. And that's, I think, one of the values of reading even one of these poems. So well, let's hopefully reach 1 million viewers with yours and put everybody's mind in a perfect spot. Read us one of your poems, would you please?
What a beautiful world is going to be, right? So I'm going to read one of my poems from my book, Winter Sun. It's called Conflicted to Hopeful, a Prayer. The reason why I chose this poem is because that was like the main poem that I was so shy about, because it was like scattered all over the place. It was like, I remember where I was when I wrote this poem. I just woke up early in the morning and I just didn't feel good, and it's like I came from a troubled place, but then it was like consciously, like I felt this way, but I consciously wanted to feel something else. And then I just also want to add in for my poems that I wrote them from a place, I love nature. So my apartment then in Atlanta was surrounded by trees and birds. So every day I wake up with the sound of the birds and all of that. So I draw a lot of inspiration from that.
Well, so then let's hear it. Go for
it. Okay. So conflicted to hopeful, a prayer. Dear Lord, thank you for being you, my everlasting and ever-present help. God, sometimes I find myself unsure of what to do and where I went wrong in my actions and in my choices. I know the how is up to you, but please, dear Lord, guide my steps now and forever. Redirect me back to my destined path if I should ever stray. Let your desires for me spread like wildfires in my heart. Help me to be patient, to act in faith, and to trust in all that you do, while I hold steadfast through the progress and setbacks. Help me stay present and be a blessing to others. Regardless of my own trials, may I always be a light. Lord, I don't know what my future holds, but I'm grateful for your power and might. You, my omnipotent desire, know my future better than I. I am your beautiful masterpiece, a splendid crown in your hands. Lord, please help me every day. May the fire in me never stop burning. May the zest for life keep roaring. May the actions I take be bold and confident. May I not be discouraged by any circumstance, experience, or emotion, or let what I see discourage me. Thank you, Lord, for your fragrant presence, consistently leaving a trail of sweet scent and beauty in my life. As your child, my life will blossom with your mighty hand lifting me up continually. I love you with gratitude, your baby girl, Odna. And this was written December 16, 2019, 11:16 a.m.
Well, and if you think about it, that was probably on the eve of when everybody was starting to come into the pandemic world, because that's, I think, what is one of the best parts of this book is that, you know, it really can touch your heart when you need to be touched. And so thank you for doing that. But let's take a quick little break. And when we come back, I want to talk to you a little bit about, you know, the trials and tribulations that brought you to write this book. So stay with us, and you stay with us, and we'll be right back after these messages.
Alrighty.
This week on the Authors Exchange podcast, we talk with one author who's had great success with web publishing, Alicia Edrago, author of The Creator's Descendants.
So this is what happened with me. Every week I was releasing an episode, I was receiving the comments, the feedback, and then I was getting more inspired for the next episode, and then for some changes on novel that they could start publishing as a web novel before having the final version of the book, because it really helped me to have the version that I have right now, and which is a version that I'm very proud of.
Really kind of dip your toe into the world, and you create an already waiting customer base with people that have already had a hand in creating the novel with you. Have you? The Authors Exchange podcast. Download Fridays at noon everywhere you find podcasts and on YouTube. Welcome back to the Authors Exchange. Today we have a very, very special guest with us, Odna Chukkas, who has written a book called Winter's Sun. It is a book of poems. And these poems are spiritual in nature, but there's healing and they're hopeful and they're all kinds of wonderful things. And the reason she wrote these books is because she had a bit of a bad patch. And we're going to talk about that now and find out where her inspiration came from this and talk about how she found herself to write it on the page and bringing them all to us. So, hey, Anna, I don't want you to have to bare your soul too much to the world, but tell us a little bit about your inspiration and how you wound up to get to these books.
My inspiration came from my experience with anxiety, which was the reason why I wrote the poems in the first place. But like I said earlier, I didn't know I was writing a book to be published. I was just writing these words. They were just coming through out of me. It's like I was channeling. It's like God was speaking through me to say something, to just, sometimes they say when you write, you heal. So it's like I was just birthing out beautiful things regardless of how I felt. But then my mind, it's like my subconscious mind was saying something and bringing out words of positivity. So I guess, God didn't want me to, he wanted me to, what basically these poems are is, God didn't want me to use what I saw with my eyes, like the negative things of the world and the mistakes. He wanted me to use my eyes, actually, because in this book, I use my senses to praise and to show gratitude, and to speak positive words. I use the stuff like my sight, my ears, my taste, and my nose. So I basically was manifesting positivity out of a dark situation.
Well, so were you Were you in the United States when that was happening, or
Yes,
where were you located?
I was in Atlanta.
Yeah, well, I've been in Atlanta too, and I had some pretty dark times there too myself. So, we love Atlanta. We love Atlanta.
Atlanta is beautiful. It's beautiful. The people are amazing, but I don't know.
All right, so you were born in Nigeria. You made it to Atlanta, and then you went back to Nigeria. Is that the case?
Yes, I was born in Nigeria, did most of my life in Nigeria, and then I went to Miami first. And went to fashion school in Miami, and then ended up moving to Atlanta because I wanted to explore more places. And then it was there in Atlanta that I started my hairstyling business. I learned my hairstyling on YouTube, and then I started to have clients and meet people and all of that.
And that's where you started developing heart palpitations from stress. That's what the United States can do for
yes,
people, right?
I'm not just gonna say much about that, but I know that I'm so much more peaceful as I'm back home. But I'm glad that I spent some time in the US because I developed a lot of skills, met a lot of people, and now I think differently, like more forward thinking. I'm like a go-getter now.
Yeah. Well, and you've got in the front of the book, you had some pretty big people reading the book and giving you endorsements, didn't you?
Yes. I had a couple of people, like I know a lot of authors, and they read my books, and then they have left me reviews. Some of them are in my book. Some of them are actually Nigerians. They own their own companies, and I sent them to read the book so they can write me a review and all of that. And it's been amazing. Like anyone that reads the book always just feels great and happy, which is, what I want. And I'm just so proud that I say it a lot. I'm not trying to be proud or anything, but I'm just happy that, God chose me and I, obeyed the assignment, that my name is by this, and I'm just going to do whatever, it is I can to push it forward and to get it to where it's needed the most.
Well, and then I guess the biggest question is that are you feeling better? Have things started looking up after?
Yes, I feel great. It's not perfect, but one thing I learned from that experience is that the mind is a battlefield. And there's this book by Joyce Meyer. It's called Battlefield of the Mind. I tell people every day, you can't just expect yourself. You can't feel better without participating in feeling better. You have to take charge. It's like a battle. It's like a war. Like if you feel bad, you have to fight against it and look for things that make you have positive thoughts. So every day, some days I don't feel good, but then I remember my experience and how far I've come, and I find things that make me come out of it. Like I love to collect quotes on Pinterest, positive quotes, from all these ancients and all of that and I read a lot of books. So I'm a lot better, but it's not perfect, but I'm getting there. But the thing about it is I'm trying. Each day I try to be better than I was yesterday, but it has to be a conscious effort. Like you have to participate in feeling better. Do you understand? Like if I just stayed in the anxiety, I think I would have come out of it.
Well, and you also have a book of poetry that you can read to find the inspiration when you need it, right?
Exactly.
All right, we're going to take another quick little break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about the publishing process and how you got from, 12 poems in the middle of the night to having them on the pages and on Amazon for sale. So stand by. We'll be right back after these messages.
So I'm going to read one of my poems from Winter's Sun. It's called Notes of Joy. Listen, be blessed, and enjoy. Notes of joy. Even in my anguish, God, there you were. You felt everything I felt. You heard every word I spoke. You caught every tear I shed. Even in the darkness, there your light was. You were my ever-present help. You rescued me from destruction. You rescued me from myself, from my thoughts. As I lay to go to bed, you enveloped me in a comforting hug. You whispered to my spirit reminders of who you have been. You spoke of great things to come. In the darkness, you spoke of hope. You assured me that all is well, all will always be well. As you said to me, every step you take, you are taking in my footprints. I always have your back no matter what. I slept so peacefully in your sweet embrace, with my heart singing at elevated notes of joy. When I thought this was it, you said no, I have just begun.
Have you heard about Whither We Tend? Whither We Tend is a novel for Americans about Americans. It takes recent political events and fictionalizes them and imagines what the world will look like in a couple of years and how things could turn out. It is my hope that they don't turn out this way. And that's why I wrote the book. And that's why I'm hoping you will read the book. Because I don't want these events to take place in our country. And this book is my aim at trying to do that. I know not everybody likes to read. So I made it an audiobook. And with the code that you get in this video, you can download Whither We Tend for absolutely free and listen to it, all 7 hours of it, and enjoy it, I hope. I'm told it's pretty good. I've gotten lots of 5-star reviews, and I'm hoping you'll give it a 5-star review as well. Take a look at Whither We Tend, a novel about Americans for Americans. When people think of Patreon, they usually think about musicians trying to get their music out to the world, or maybe a filmmaker that's trying to get his foot in the door in the movie-making business. Or they might even think of those people that live on their sailboats and put scantily clad pictures of themselves out across YouTube. Well, there's another type of Patreon person out there, and that is the Authors Exchange. We are funded by Patreon, and you can help support us by supporting us on one of 3 levels. Either buy us a vowel for $1.50, or if you'd like to sponsor a book for an individual podcast, that comes out to $3.99. Or if you would like to go all in, we will name a title episode after you, and you can do that for $20. We also have exclusive content available on our Patreon platform, including 10 questions where we ask authors the questions that they're not going to answer anywhere else. And you can always check out all the episodes without commercials. So if you'd like to join us on Patreon, we'd really appreciate the support. Go to patreon.com/The Authors Exchange. Thank you so much. Bye-bye. Welcome back. It's the final segment of this week's edition of the Authors Exchange. You can catch us every Friday at noon. And this week we have Odna Chukkas, who is a poet and an author, and she is officially an indie author, which the pandemic was amazing for finding indie authors and bringing this to light. And that's one of the reasons we have this podcast, is to celebrate the independent authors. And what better lovely example than Odna to talk to us about the independent publishing process. Odna, tell us, how did you get this book published?
So how I got this book published was that I came across a book by Gabrielle Gandhi. Have you heard about her?
I've not.
She published a book is about self-publishing, so she takes you through all the steps basically. And then there's also a Facebook for that. So I first of all read her book, then I went back again and went through all of the steps. I haven't done that 100%, but I had to go design my cover, everything. I had to go do this Kindle, EPUB, learn everything. I watched a bunch of YouTube videos. But she gives a lot of resources where you can learn and where you can, learn everything from scratch. How you can go from zero to self-publishing in X amount of weeks. I think it's 6 weeks. I'm not very sure, but her name is Gabrielle Gandhi. So I followed her processes, and then after that, on Amazon. Then now it started as an ebook. Now it's on paperback. Amazon print on demand right now. So it's been amazing, an amazing learning process. There were times when I woke up I had to give, because I was on a timeline. I literally told myself February 11th I have to be published, and I told myself a month before that. So I was burning the midnight candles and just getting it done, the editing, all of that. I paid an editor off of Fiverr to do the first part of the editing. She did her best, although she was trying to change my work, which I told her, you can't change my work. I just want you to make it flow,
Right.
but I can't change the words and all of that, And then she did that, but all the editing, like I edited like by myself after that, like 5 to 6 times. But something that really helped me was Grammarly.
Mm-hmm.
Grammarly, I went, copied each poems, copied and pasted them, and went on Grammarly, reread. I read it, I edit it, go back the next day. Like I'm still, even now the books are published, I'm still editing. Like I'm like, oh my God, here's that mistake there. It's so crazy,
I have a second edition coming out of my book, Whither We Tend, because I have so many glitches that as I self-published as well, and I missed a bunch of stuff. And a whole paragraph got mixed up, and so yeah, that's the self-publishing game. So and hey, we'll do the best we can, and that's why they come up with second editions, right?
Exactly. I like what you said there. We do the best we can, because sometimes before I finally published, I was like, this is not perfect. Yes, because I have an issue with being perfect, and I think it gets in the way of getting things done. So I was like, this is not perfect. And I heard like the Holy Spirit say to me, it doesn't have to be. I really want you to put it out there. There are people that need it, So that is my driving force, and that is my why. People need it, and I have to do whatever I can to just keep pushing it out there, So,
and I think that's exactly it is that, your book is there to inspire. Your book is there to comfort. Your book is there for people to share in your trials and tribulations and learn something from it and get strength from God to be able to overcome their troubles. And if a period's in the wrong spot, or a comma's not the right way, or something's not, capitalized the proper way, that should not be an imposition to getting somebody feeling better. Is that correct?
Yes, that is so correct.
Well, and so that's the game we play, unfortunately, is independence. But at the same time, it's like we can't be perfect. Nobody's going to be perfect, and only God's perfect, right? So, like when God puts his book out, somebody's going to find a misspelling in his book too. Sure, I'm sure of it. Hey, Odna, it has been an absolute pleasure talking with you. I would want just one more thing. How can we find your book? Is it on Amazon? Is it all the places that we're supposed to be finding books?
It's on Amazon. Everything is on Amazon for now. You can buy it as an ebook, which is $2.99. Or if you have Kindle Unlimited, you can get it for free. And then you can also purchase it on paperback, still on Amazon. And then you can follow me on Goodreads on Amazon. Yes, that's it basically.
Well, and we're going to be sharing this on the Authors Exchange so that everybody can find your book and enjoy that on Facebook. And we will expect you guys to go out and buy her book today, Winter's Sun, available on Amazon. And make sure you download it on Kindle if you have Kindle Unlimited. Hey, Odna, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate you. You're so blessed and you're so awesome. Thank you very much.
Hey, it's my pleasure. And every week you can join us at noon on Fridays for the download of the Authors Exchange podcast, available wherever free books and free things can be found on the internet. You will find this podcast on Amazon, on Google, on Deezer, on all other things like that. But for today, we have to call it quits. So thank you for watching, and we'll see you again